Video game bang, video game bang, video game bang. Video game. Mega brand. Live from the sack, it's the livest. In fact, I'm putting rhymes on this track to put my guys on the map. Updates, geek news, tech talk, and reviews. They can summarize it so you ain't gotta breeze through. Listen once and you're forever fans. And I'm not saying it because their theme song features Mega Ram, the ultimate source of all geek media. Other podcasts, they just don't match up. Need proof? You can check the archives and catch up. Stats off the chain, we have rearranged the game. It'll never be the same. Now it's time to feel the bang. Mac.
What is up, everybody? Video Game Bang is back. And wow, it seems like every time we press stop and then to the next time we press record, we're in a different universe. We're just drifting. We're traveling. The problems that we thought we had a week or two ago, just life is complicated. This country is complicated, and I am so excited to be able to share community, friendship with a couple of my co-hosts, my very respected friends, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, CurtisFisher. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Doing better today than I was a few days ago, and even better than I was doing yesterday. So
that's all we can ask for.
Glad to be back. Glad to be here. That is. Very,
I like that your phone just apologized for the interruption. I heard that.
I have a very apologetic iPhone. I apologize for my apologetic iPhone.
And she is back. She just finished streaming. She just got done doing a fundraiser stream for our friends at Oblivion Comics and Coffee, who did get looted in some of the after some of the protests. I won't say during some of the protests. After the protests out here in Sacramento, things got a little rowdy. Things got a little rough. Some windows got busted, including our friends at Oblivion Comics and Coffee. But I'm surprised the community came back together. They started to GoFundMe. It went wildly successful. They're going to be able to reopen here. But Emmaskies, how you doing?
I'm good. My back is killing me, but I'm good.
Your back is
it was actually, speaking of like community, so Oblivion got hit Sunday night. So Monday morning, I went out there to go help them board up. We spent Monday out there boarding up all the windows. So Sunday night was actually pretty rough. Oblivion got hit, but so there was like something over 36 windows were smashed in around downtown Sacramento. If you're walking around, like, businesses were just wrecked. And so I go down Monday morning, and there were people walking around with brooms and buckets and tools, just going business to business. Like, how can we help? Can we help you clean? Can we help you board up? Can we help you do this? Some guy came up while we were boarding up, and he had like a wagon full of tools. And he was like, I got this, and this. Is there anything you need? Can I help you? And he had a shop vac and helped us vacuum up all the glass that we hadn't been able to get. And like, he just stayed there for 15 minutes, vacuumed everything up, and then moved on to the next place. So like, Sacramento really came out to help, which was amazing to see.
That is Sacramento to a T. Like, we have an amazing community when we're motivated. Like, try and take away our basketball team, you're going to hear about it. You know, try and smash a bunch of windows and tag things up downtown. We'll be the first ones out there with mops and buckets. So
yeah. And I had actually that same day that Oblivion got hit, I was out there during the day. I was out there for 6 hours, and it was peaceful. It was calm. There was anger, but justifiably so, but it wasn't violent. It wasn't aggressive. So don't get it twisted that the protests in Sacramento are vandals or whatever. It's a whole separate group of people that come out at night and just mess things up. But the people out there protesting are very calm, very peaceful. They're organized well. It's a powerful day.
You were actually out there for quite a while. What was your experience going out? And what drove you to go do that? Because you went out by yourself, and spent the day out there. What was that experience like?
It was really powerful in a lot of different ways. But when I went out there, the first like hour and a half was all speakers at Cesar Chavez Park, and they were speakers on everything from community members talking about their own experiences with police brutality, both in Sacramento and in other places, people whose family had experiences. And then the organizers were it was almost like a seminar for a while on how to safely protest, you know, making sure you keep drinking water, you eat food, you're checking on the people around you. If anything happens, if anything dangerous happens, you go the other direction. You don't instigate with the police. And then there was like an hour where they talked about first aid, what to do if you got hit by rubber bullets, what to do if you got tear gassed, how to help people around you, keep your mask on, you know. It was really, and that was even before any of the marching and the walking through the streets, and it was a very organized, very peaceful time. And there was a little, you know, there was separation. There were clearly various defined groups. I was not in the group that ended up getting arrested. There was a group that ended up going out onto I-5, and a whole bunch of them got arrested, which was about the time that I left. Because I was by myself, so I was like, once people start getting arrested and once night falls, like, I'm going home. This is not where I'm trying to be. But it was very powerful in a lot of different ways. And there was, I mean, every race, creed, color was out there supporting. It was every group, you know, everybody from different political backgrounds was there to just help however they could and make their voice heard and add to the numbers.
So, I mean, we just kind of jumped into it, but obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, there was a major racial injustice that had happened in Minneapolis, where the police basically killed a dude by putting his knee on the back of his neck. I remember seeing the video kind of the day before it went, I guess we could say viral, you know, before it really blew up. And it was just one of those things scrolling through. You see it pop up on Twitter. And I ended up watching the video. And honestly, when I first saw it, it hit different than some of the other ones you've seen, just because of, you know, he's pleading for his life, you know, asking for his mom, saying, I can't breathe. And then it was just the fucking look on that cop's face that just made you sick to your stomach. Like, I had a visceral reaction. If you asked me, I wouldn't have predicted that it would actually spawn a literal world to come together around this cause. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of it was the spark needed to really get this conversation going and make some changes happen, because, you know, it's really changed the dialogue and the whole landscape of the internet right now. Like, I can't even say. Basically, it really, you realize the state this country really is in. Because I remember being a little kid, like in elementary school, and they teach about slavery or whatever, and you start thinking like, man, I'm so glad that was so long ago. Like, look at us now. Like, we're in modern times. I can't believe people actually did that stuff. That was evil. That was bad. And you just think like, man, I remember having the thought, like, I'm so glad it's 1998. Like, whew, we don't have to deal with that shit. And then here we are in the year 2020, and it seems to be like, I wasn't around back then, but this is pretty fucking bad. You know, seeing everything's recorded now. So all these atrocities, you know, the original murder was one thing, but now there's video after video of cops still being bad during these protests. And it's a real ugly part of the country that I think a lot of us knew was there. I mean, I'm certainly black people knew, but I think the rest of us were kind of like turning a blind eye to this shit, and it's coming to light. And, you know, there's been, like you guys said, there's been a lot of political discourse, the president not really helping too much. But that's kind of the premise of all this. Obviously, I want to give each of you guys kind of just a chance just to kind of talk about it, you know, it as much as you would like to. So, Curtis, it seems like every week I go to you like, man, how you dealing with the coronavirus? This is a whole nother thing now that we have on top of coronavirus. How are you dealing? How are you hanging in there?
This is a rough time to be black and asthmatic right now.
God damn.
Like, Mother Nature, society, what have I done? No, you know, in all honesty, it's odd, man. It's interesting. You know, I will say that I'm very blessed to grow up in a family that you know, is very educational, you know, very, very, very loving, very nourishing, in the sense that they always, like my mom, my uncles, my cousin, especially shout out to my cousin Yodel, always wanted me to be aware of the world that I lived in and how to best navigate it. This is the reality of what you're dealing with. Should some of these things be like this? No. What we do, to combat those things and how to navigate it. So for me, from when I was spending time in the South when I was younger, which out there it's, I can say it's a lot more out in the air and apparent than sometimes it is out here in California. But, my life of studying, the history of Black people, from, Africa onto America, and then obviously me being American, a lot of how it's been here, but even some of the other things, Haitians and Dominicans, how the slave trade ended up bringing some people out there. And, I know there's things, some conversation going on with Dominicans and stuff right now, but, all of that to come to this day. And I hate to say it, but like as shocking as the video was, and I think, the most startling thing about it was how long this atrocity went on. And we just sit up there, and it wasn't a quick thing. We see so many quick bang bangs, if it's a shooting or something like that, those happen quick, and those are terrible too. But just to watch every second as this man was losing his life, and, the people that had the power to, to make the change, the most power, either were the ones causing it or the ones allowing it. I think that might be, maybe the most startling thing about it. But for me, it's not anything new. I've seen it before, and I hate to say this because I reckon myself as a compassionate person and whatnot. That's how I think of myself. But to stuff like that, people, of my own race, like I've kind of grown a little numb to it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think maybe that speaks more to just how much of it has happened, over time and whatnot, day to day. We know names, we know George Floyd's name, and we know countless other names, and we can go all the way back to Emmett Till. But those are just the names we know. Those are just the biggest stories. There's so many other smaller stories and situations that never got documented, to that degree, that has happened. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. It is as ugly, and maybe even uglier than what we see. The reality of, have things gotten better? Yes. We were all having a conversation before the stream started, and Emma talked about, we were talking about the reality of the world and how change happens. And Emma brought up, the world changes, usually in incremental changes, incremental progress. And I agreed, it does. So we have had incremental progress. I don't want to sit up here and say, it's just as bad as it was back in the 1960s or even further back, because the reality is it's not. There has been progress made, but we're still not where it needs to be. And like Will Smith said, that was a quote that he had said, it's not that there's more racism. It's getting filmed. Now it's more and more documented. So the people that weren't aware before, whether they didn't want to be, or just frankly, kind of, like we say, oblivious and living under a rock, they're not afforded, that luxury anymore, because it's right in front of everyone's faces. If you've got a phone, if you've got a screen in your face and a camera on the back of it, you're either recording it or you're watching it these days due to social media. So we all have a lot more awareness now. For the people that weren't as aware before, and where that leads us to is today, where we're at today. And I was talking earlier, and I was saying, hey, I've been pissed off beyond belief. I've been earlier on, I was scared. I learned a long time ago that I don't want to live in that fear. I don't want to live in the fear of. I want to be treated properly and right, but I don't want to live in the fear of. So I've chosen not to live in fear. I won't be fearful, but you don't have to be afraid of what's wrong. You just have to stand up against it. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to have fear. If you have fear, it's understandable, but you don't have to. You just say, okay, that's wrong. I'm going to stand up against it and I'm going to face it. And I want to see us get past this point. I want to see us stand up in the right way, look at it, face it, call out the people that need to be called out, but also want us to realize that it's going in the process of healing, because we need to heal from this. And eventually we got to get to a place where, we start to open up for the progress to happen and the change to happen and the new and the next level of progress, which I believe is coming. We have to start looking towards that. I've been in situations where I feel like it's hopeless, but some of what's going on, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion, but some of what's going on, I see people, enlightened, some people that haven't been enlightened before. That's kind of what gives me the hope. Like, oh, you're more aware now. You're more conscious now. Okay, that's good. Let's start taking those steps forward.
I wanted to say, I remember kind of when this, I'd say, if we could say day one, once the, activism really started picking up, and it was, being covered on the media. I saw a friend of mine who I won't name, made a poignant post who, for the most part, was saying, very, it's things I would agree with, I would say. And then at the end on Instagram, where you put the hashtags, there's hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag BLM 2020, hashtag, whatever. And then there was the hashtag All Lives Matter. And I know that this person wasn't like an All Lives Matter type of person, maybe when they said All Lives Matter, they said it in the way that just an ignorant person says it, of like, I love everybody, like not necessarily dissecting it and saying it maliciously. But I saw that and went, did a little cringe. And then I saw the next day she posted something on, about how All Lives Matter is bad. And I went back to the original post and they deleted that hashtag. So I was like,
that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's the kind of education that you want in this, is when you're able to take that, not even criticism, but that education. When you're able to take something like that, when somebody calls you out on problematic behavior, and instead of getting offended and getting defensive, you're able to listen and learn. And that's the kind of hope that you have from something like this, is that people who, if you're surprised by this, there's a level of intention that if you didn't know this was happening, you didn't know it was this bad, you weren't surprised, like you had to have not been paying attention very deliberately. But recognizing that, and recognizing your own privilege in being ignorant of things like this, and recognizing just things that you didn't know before, and being willing to listen to other people is what you hope kind of comes out of things like this, at least on an individual level.
Yeah, I took that as like a positive thing. When I saw it originally, and I'm not the type, I just can't do it. I can't look at a post, and when I know it's well-intentioned from a person, I just can't bring myself. I've DM'd one person and been like, hey, you might, because I know where their heart was. But for this one, it was one of those ones where I just left alone. I was like, they'll learn. And it was very pleasant to see that there is education, and then people are, and I'm sure, that person's one person. I'm learning shit every day, that I wouldn't have thought of or didn't think about. Like, one thing that happened too, and we were going to talk about this as part of one of the stories, but there was the Blackout Tuesday, which I guess it was a bunch of music executives who wanted to do this thing where they were all going to, in solidarity, not post any new music and shut down all the streaming services that they had power over and stuff. And then, from where I am, from a brand perspective, I'm thinking like, oh, that's a good idea. It seems like it makes sense. That we would do that to amplify the voices of Black people or anybody with a message, so that we're not drowning out what's really going on. And then Lil Nas X, of all people, I follow him. He's got one of the most fire Twitter accounts, out there right now. And he went completely the other way. And he was like, this is awful. This is terrible. Yeah. Why would anybody do this? Who came up with it? And, it was probably made by, people who were infiltrating to try and silence us and all this stuff. And that's the territory that, it's crazy. We all want to do the right thing, but then some people will manipulate that right thing to try and, because if you search the Black Lives Matter hashtag, a lot of people were using that for relevant information. They're using that to find out what's the current or, what's the status of something in their city. And if everybody's just posting black squares with hashtag Black Lives Matter, you're kind of clogging up the feed.
It was just noise.
Yeah, you're condensing. Yeah, I participated, but I didn't post about it. I didn't post.
That's what it came down to. The thing with Blackout Tuesday, and that was another thing where you talk about like the education people that are willing to take sort of education on these things. Is I know multiple people that participated and then listened, read, heard that it was bad, and then took it down because they understood. But it was very performative. It was very, you know, I'm going to be silent for the day, but I'm going to announce that I'm going to be silent. I'm going to announce to everybody that I'm being silent and listening. And who is that for? And you know, and then somebody pointed out that the hashtag Blackout Tuesday that was created 2 days ago has 20 something million posts, as opposed to hashtag Black Lives Matter that had like 10, 13 million posts. And they're like, this is how you know it's performative.
Yeah.
Like, who is this for? And so luckily a lot of the people that were in that were the same way, like educated, that, you know, you were well-intentioned, you had good intentions, but you're not helping, and it's actually doing the opposite of exactly what you want it to do.
That's a really interesting stat to note. I would love to actually see that. That's scary. And I think that deserves a study right there. Like, if that's actually true, that the Blackout Tuesday hashtag had more use than the Black Lives Matter, that's sad and scary at the same time.
So right now, Blackout Tuesday has 28.8 million posts.
Damn.
And hashtag Black Lives. Oh, I spelled it wrong, which is why it's so low.
Oh, there we go. It's got it.
And hashtag Black Lives Matter has 18 million. It has 10 million less posts than Blackout Tuesday, because it was largely performative for a lot of people, because it's easy to post a black square, hashtag Blackout Tuesday, and be like, well, that's enough activism for today. I have done my part. The
only thing sadder than that is the few posts that have gone viral now of the quote unquote influencer who was holding a drill.
Oh my God.
And she was drilling up like she's fixing the, you know, looted buildings. And then afterwards, she hands it back to the Mexican dude. And she
climbs into her Mercedes and drives away.
She goes, all right, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. You cut out a little bit.
You cut out. We lost all of that.
Oh, she said, and then she yelled like boyfriends of Instagram or something as she was getting into her.
Yeah, that was some crazy.
And there's others, like, there's plenty of other pictures of like a white girl standing in front of a looted building and her boyfriend's taking a picture behind her. And it's just like, it's just performance. It's just performative. And it doesn't help anybody.
Pratt says, you know, a lot of people I know personally use the post to make and share information. I don't. That's why I said I participated, but to me, my way of doing that was actually what it said, and by going not posting anything, and I used that time to, you know, update my voting registration and a couple other things, and if people used the proper hashtag and didn't congest the Black Lives Matter, you know, information feed, it's totally fine. Like people have their opinions on it. You know, some people say this, you're always going to get disagreements and disopinions. I wouldn't vilify anybody who participated, especially if their hearts were in the right place and it wasn't just to get a few extra likes. And I think that's the thing that gets lost in all of this. I see a lot of people with that if you ask them, if, you know, a series of questions, if you believe in racism, if you would do this, that, or the other thing, would all answer the same, fighting each other online over semantics a lot. And it feels like there are people out there just trying to one up each other or out woke each other when there is a legitimate evil out there to be fighting. So, yeah, I'm not trying to like, it's hard. It's case by case. You never can know. But the last thing I would do would be go out there and shunning people whose heart are legitimately in the right place. There could be people who have misinformation. And in my case, you know, in the few cases I've done it, you message them directly. But there's a lot of people out there that, and I know just from the SF Shock account, you know, everybody on the Shock staff, you know, made their personal donations and stuff. And then, you know, we all care about it. And we put out a statement crafted by our owner. And, you know, for the most part, people understood, you know, we're what we stand for. We made it clear. This is, you know, we're where we are. And then you just get so much hate, regardless of who you are, though, of just like, oh, another brand just trying to grab, you know, its market share of fans or whatever. And those are hard. Those hurt. those would sting a little bit as a social media guy, because like, no, like seriously, guys, we really, we put our money where our mouth is, you know, where we care about this shit, but you know, you're so negative on the world, and it hurts our feelings. And, you know, it's kind of stupid to say, you know, because we're supposed to be hardened to this kind of stuff. But when I saw those posts, they legit, I've gotten tons of hate online for stuff I've said on this show, you know, my esports affiliations, whatever, you know, I've been called a lot of different names, and usually I let it slide off my back. The two things that have legit hurt my feelings was the time the guy criticized my hairline and people trying to say that our posts were illegitimate and not like from a good spot. And so I would just encourage people, just think about it a little bit, think twice. Before we get into some news stories, which are going to be related. So if you're like over all this stuff, this might not be the episode for you, because the news stories tied directly into what's happening in the world. Just before we get onto that, we'll go give Emma first, and then we'll go to Curtis. Emma, anything you just want to talk about or get off your chest, or a message just for people who are listening?
No, I think we've covered most of the things. I think the important things to do here are to listen to Black voices, Black creators who are telling you something, even if it's something you don't want to hear, especially if it's something you don't want to hear. And I think at the end of this, the most important thing that any of us can do is vote. Register to vote. Make sure you're currently registered. Make sure you're on the register polls. If you live in a state that does register purges, make sure you're still on there and you're still registered. And most importantly, vote locally. Do not forget that, you know, you're not just voting for the president. You're voting for everything. And you have a much better chance of affecting your own life and your neighbors' lives and your community's lives if you vote locally. Know who your DA is. If you don't know who your DA is, find what they stand for, and find out when they're up for re-election. Vote locally. Please vote locally.
Curtis.
Definitely what Emma said, because the voting part is important, especially on the local level, because if you're dealing with things, you know, in your city, that's local government. That's not the federal government. That's local, state, county, city. So definitely participate in that. My thing kind of goes back a little bit to what Cory said. You know, emotions are high right now, understandably so. But the point of these conversations is to see a true change and a better world after this. So within all of our emotions and everything that's going on, remember to have a little bit of grace for people. We are wanting things to change, and that means that people that were doing things one way need an opportunity to do things the better way. So let's remember that. Let's remember to help educate as much as possible. And, you know, the more people that are included in this movement for better change and better tomorrow, the better. That's more people that's less people that we're fighting against, less bad ideologies that we're fighting against, and the more people who now see the way that things should be and participate in it. So let's keep that hope alive, and let's really put ourselves in a place to see the change.
So we'll start with PlayStation. Sony PlayStation, they announced, and this story is via the Daily Walkthrough and their own Twitter account, that they are going to postpone the PS5 reveal event that was scheduled, I believe, for like tomorrow.
Yeah, it's scheduled for Thursday.
Yeah, the decision to postpone was made in regard to the current global protest over the systematic racism and police brutality taking place in the United States. The full statement can be found here, where they said, "We have decided to postpone the PlayStation 5 event scheduled for June 4th. While we understand gamers worldwide are excited to see the PS5, we do not feel that right now is the time for a celebration, and we want to stand back and allow for more important voices to be heard." You know, when we talk about companies just doing things for lip service and actually, you know, putting their money where their mouth is, this is pretty much the biggest way to put your money where your mouth is. You know, donations are great. That's amazing. But when you can take something as large and relevant to your company as the launch of your new console, and trust me, I'm not a console fan, but when I see it means a lot to them. And to do that, to postpone and be able to acknowledge the part that says and allow more important voices to be heard right now, that's the part where, you know, like, good on you, Sony. Like, you guys are doing the right thing. And then a skeptic could say, yeah, well, just because they know, you know, there's a distraction, you know, and I choose to believe the best that they did this with well intentions. But as Special Cases said in the chat, never look in the comments. Well, guess what? We looked in the comments, and Emma, you said they weren't too. There's a lot of angry guys out there.
There's a lot of entitlement is really what it comes down to. There's people that are upset that they're not going to get to know about, whatever game they wanted to hear about, whatever console they wanted to hear about. Luckily, the most vocal voices, the biggest voices in the community, your influencers and your streamers and your the people that have the big followings that are posting out have been very, very gracious about this. Have been very grateful, saying this is exactly the right thing to do. This is exactly what you should have done. But yeah, don't ever read the comments, because there's a lot of people in there that are really angry about it, that are very upset about it, that are kind of shitting on PlayStation for this, or it kind of runs the gamut of everything from what you said, where skeptical people are saying that this is just a business move, and to an extent I'm sure it is. I'm sure that was definitely part of it. However, there were other ways they could have handled this that didn't require them to postpone it for 3 weeks, which, good on them. Even if it was for that, like, fuck it, it worked. They're not gonna take up the airspace, so who really cares why? You hope it's for the right reasons, and you'd like to believe it's for the right reasons. So yeah, it kind of runs the gamut of people that are very angry about it, people that are very happy about it, people that understand it but are annoyed. I know we're going to talk about some of the other ones, but there's a lot of different companies that did this and a lot of people that are mad about it. And it's like, what kills me is they're not pushing the release of the PlayStation 5. They're not changing their timeline on anything. They're just not going to tell you about it for another 3 weeks. How fucking entitled do you have to be mad about that?
Yeah, it's not like we're going through entire social rebirthing at this point. You mentioned some other companies were doing this. One of the other ones, I believe
Nintendo did something as well. I believe they may have pushed a direct, but don't quote me on that. But Cyberpunk for sure. Cyberpunk had like a big news thing. They were gonna talk about the game, and they pushed that back to June. I think it might be the same day, June 25th.
Okay.
I don't know when PlayStation rescheduled theirs for. But yeah, Cyberpunk was another one where people were like, I'm canceling my pre-order. This is weak. This is stupid. Like, you're just kowtowing to liberal snowflakes. It's just like, why? How are you angry about this? How are you possibly mad about this? And it's just entitlement.
You think it's the right move, Curtis?
I think it's good. I believe it comes from a place of trying to be supportive. In some cases, you either are pissing people off that don't care about things that are more important at the moment, or B, for some people, it might not be enough. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to take them at their word. They want to move out the way to allow much more important situation and matter take the stage. What's going on, human rights and human treatment and all that stuff is a lot more important than video games. And like Emma said, it's just the information about the console. It's not actually delaying the console. But even if it was delaying the console, same thing. Human lives, and humanity and how people are being treated mean a lot more. So I'm going to say same thing, get on you, Sony. I know a lot of people just like to look at corporations like they're soulless machines, and we know how corporations can be, and they did not have to do this. They could have still stuck with it. And maybe they would have gotten some scrutiny, but there would have been a lot of people that just would have been happy to get some good information and something different, but they didn't, and I appreciate them for it.
Ruru2 in chat says, all these angry reactions are coming from false flag attack of Xbox fanboys. Dun, dun, dun.
Hilarious. Well, wow. Xbox actually responded to PlayStation's as well, and it was like a moment of unity in the console wars where like they retweeted PlayStation's announcement. It was like, this is exactly how this should be done. This is exactly how it should be run. We're standing with you. We're with you 100%.
That's awesome.
It was like a rare moment of peace in the console wars.
Of all the places we don't need a war right now or devastation and conflict, I think it's in our video games. So I think those are a good move. One person or a company that didn't necessarily take the hint and decided to go full force into their launch was Riot Games and their title Valorant, the game we've been talking about the last few weeks. took some heat over a very rocky start. So it went bad for a variety of reasons. One, they couldn't have predicted it because I'm pretty sure the whole Blackout Tuesday thing happened like in the afternoon on a Monday. So, they launched on a day where a lot of people were intentionally not consuming media. I mean, I know for sure from the NRG side, if you would have asked me a week ago, because, Valorant's coming out, we're going to have tons of dope content based on the launch. We want to explain the new characters. We want to take highlights from Twitch clips and all that. But out of, respect and amplifying, voices and being respectful for the moment, we just didn't feel right, to go out and shill out to, a video game when there's so many more important things happening. So, and that was just one example. I'm sure there's tons of other content creators and people that are way more focused on what's happening in the world than, the launch of a free-to-play game that'll be there in the next couple of days. So that was one thing that I think really hit them.
I am, for one, shocked that Riot Games had a social misstep. Who could have predicted?
Oh, they're getting better. They changed their logo. Come on. There was server issues. I mean, that just happens with a new game. One thing that was kind of surprising, though, that I don't think they were able to expect or control was negative reviews. Metacritic, as of this morning, had the game at a 3.2. And then,
out of 10?
Out of 10. Yeah. It was
get fucking wrecked.
And it's crazy because the game was, a lot of people were saying really positive things about this game in beta, and it kind of got negative reviewed.
What was it based on? What did they not like about it?
So here's the thing. I saw there's a guy in esports named Thorin. I don't see it eye to eye with him on a lot of stuff. No, Richard Lewis. It was Richard Lewis. I don't see eye to eye with either of those guys very much, but they're respectable and they're good journalists. Richard Lewis put out the thing that kind of brought attention to its low negative Metacritic, and in there he said it doesn't seem like there's any evidence of like a review bomb or anything. Like, this seems legitimate. This is just people, giving their honest opinion on the game. Forbes, on the other hand, when I was looking up, news stories, says in big letters, Valorant being review bombed. But there was no indication of where this came from other than this, and I'll read the excerpt. It says, negative reviews mention graphics, technical performance, and frustration with the anti-cheat software. And while it's always impossible to say definitively that there is some organization behind the review bomb, its mostly positive response from the beta doesn't really square with the overwhelmingly negative response on Metacritic. So they can't say why or how or who's review bombing it. They're just saying it's review bombed because everyone loved the beta and now people are giving it negative reviews when it actually
So when it was available to a much smaller group of people, it did well. And then you gave it to everybody and more people had a chance to look at it. And there were more negative reviews.
Well, to be fair, it was, by the time they shut down the servers, it was pretty much an open beta. I don't know if it was an actual open beta, but it was, they gave a lot of people access. So it's not a handful. I think it was hot when it came out the gate. It was a really big thing. This is Riot. What can they do? And it was new. It felt fresh. We saw a lot of professionals quit their current esports to go over to this, even though there's no competitive scene. And then it just sat there for a little while. And everyone was like, okay, there's only 3 maps, these characters. And the game that we got now in the full release is not much different from the beta. It's like a new character and 1 new map. And the last, bit of business here is that they're going with the battle pass thing, where you pay like $10 or $15 every 3 months.
Nobody wants these, and it's how everything is going.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't like them that they went with this. And if you want to buy the skins, they're pretty damn expensive. Like, and again, white knighting Valorant is Forbes with another article saying the title of the article is people pissed off that that they're really expensive, but they're not really, and here's why. And they kind of go through and explain, and their reasoning is because in League of Legends, the skins are just as expensive or more sometimes. And it's like, that doesn't make this case. This is a different audience. This is a free-to-play first-person shooter. I know in Call of Duty, some people will buy aesthetics for like $500, $600, $1,000. That's just the way Counter-Strike has been.
That's on them to be stupid.
Yeah,
that's on them.
And that's all second market. That's all like, there's like betting websites and things like that, and super rare things that they've cultivated a market for this kind of stuff. This game is brand new, and they wanted $70 for like the skin pack. It included 5 skins. This is what
$70 for 5 skins.
$70 for a free game.
The fuck do these people think they are?
The battle pass is like, hey, but in Dota there's $30 skins, so it's not that bad. There you go.
I'm gonna leave this call. I'm gonna hang up. I'm done. I'm out.
No, you got to hear what Forbes said, though. Forbes will make it all clear for you. They said there's no doubt that some of the skins are quite pricey. The biggest point of contention so far seems to be the Prime skin bundle, which includes 5 skins for $70. There's no doubt that it's a lot of money, but when you break it down, things are more reasonable. 5 skins for $70 gives you an average of $14 per skin. So they
imagine paying $14 for a cosmetics. I can't.
They did the math for us. $14. And then he says, compare that to the cosmetics of League of Legends, CSGO, and Rainbow Six Siege. It's entirely reasonable. In Dota, people won't bat an eyelid for spending $30 on a skin. And they said in Arcane,
because they're crazy.
They said Arcana skin too. And some games pop off with their skins. I'm not going to lie. I remember playing Smite and they put out like a pretty expensive skin, but you were Thor. First of all, you're a badass. And as you kill things and level up, you become like a mech. So it like levels with you through the game progression. That's fucking cool. I would pay $30 without batting an eyelid. But
what's wrong with you?
Well, you didn't see it. All right. It was dope. This, like, I saw these skins. They're not the business. Like, they're quite huck, if I do say so myself.
What the hell does that mean?
Curtis, inform her. Please explain what huck is. I don't have time for this.
Not pleasant or desirable.
Huck.
Am I too white to know this or too old to know this?
I'm gonna go with old.
Yeah, definitely old.
or young. You're too young to know this.
Yeah, you're definitely way too young for huck.
My first thought was Huck Finn. I was like, are we getting some literary slang in here? What are we doing?
Leave it to you to take it back to books somehow. So Valorant at a rocky start. It's a PC game. I feel like they're got a little bit of an uphill battle at this point. They're nowhere near as awful as Crucible is, the Amazon exclusive
I forgot
game.
that exists.
Everybody forgot that game exists.
I still think Destiny 2 every time I hear that name.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem because Destiny's another dead game. Oh no, I'm not gonna hear that one in the comments. Never mind. Destiny is a very great game with a healthy community. Everybody loves it.
Wow.
We have a better news story to kind of end out on. The local Smash community in Minneapolis wanted to help with recent protests however they could, and what they did was host a charity net play tournament that raised more than $35,000 benefiting the George Floyd Memorial Fund, Reclaim the Block, Black Visions Collective, and the Tony McDade Memorial Fund. Top players like Mango, S2J, Axe, Lucky, Hugs, IBDW, they all competed and streamed, raising money for the event. Just a little shout out too to our boy Nairo, friend of the show. He did his own charity stream last night too and gained another $14,000 that he was donating to various Black Lives Matters organizations, I think in his own state. So that is great to see the FGC. If any gaming community was going to be able to really come together and organize something like this, and they were committed if they use NetPlay. Curtis, NetPlay is not ideal.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's probably the worst online experience for gaming, especially for fighting games out there. But leave it to the bastard stepchild of the fighting game community, who people even to this day still, it seems like is unwanted outside of anybody but its own scene, to come together for a cause. Very similar to the legendary amount of funds that they were able to raise before that year at Evo, where they weren't even going to be able to stream. It just makes me proud. And that was, one of the things that I was going to share earlier that I didn't get to say, that, we know about toxicity in the gaming community and everything, but like the gaming community, the nerd culture community, and I specifically want to shout out the Smash Brothers community, was one of the first that's why I loved it so much. Like, of course I enjoyed the game, but it was stepping into the community where there were people of everything. Everybody was accepted. Just come on in. Do you love Smash? Come on in. And they were so inviting to me and a lot of my friends. And it just makes me proud to be a part of the community when I see them doing things like this. So, man, yeah, and the fact that they actually did online tournaments, they went through. Oh, it's so bad. Nintendo really needs to fix that. But shout out to the Smash community for doing that and donating to the various different organizations, especially locally. I hope it and I believe it'll go a long way to help in many ways.
Emmaskies, have you seen any great acts of good beyond your own charity relief type streams that have kind of inspired you, whether it's through any kind of gaming and geek outlets out there?
Well, I think we've all seen a lot of the donation matching that's been going on Twitter, especially, where somebody will post, I just donated $20. Who can match this? I just donated $100. Who can match this? And one of the creators that I follow from Reach Your Teeth, Mariel, did she started her own chain. She started, I think she started with like $100 or something. Was like, can anybody match this? Anybody who wants to. And she tallied it. I want to say it was yesterday. It was over $79,000.
Jeez.
And like these donation matching trains are just going and going and going, and people are so quick to help wherever they can. Because in some ways, if you're not where things are happening, if you're not involved in those communities, it can be hard to feel like you have anything to help or have any way to have an effect. So that for some of us is the best way that we can do that, and people have really stepped up.
That's awesome.
See, that is woke. The broke version of that is how many times I got tagged over the last week in
my God.
Instagram stories, tag 10 people train thing that I think kind of goes back to what Emma was talking about. That doesn't really serve any purpose.
It's so performative. I got tagged in that shit, and I was like, so for those of you that didn't see them, they were going around, and it was basically like, I'm going to tag 10 people that I know won't break the Black Lives Matter chain. And then it was just screenshot after screenshot after screenshot. The message, there was no message. There was nothing. All you did was screenshot and reshare. And it was, again, the same kind of thing of like, well, that's enough activism for today. I've done my part. What are you doing? I was so pissed off. Somebody tagged me in that. I said, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this right now. I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, I ignored the chain too. I didn't want to feel like obligated and put 10 other, mutuals through that type of
the one that I got tagged in, like I saw people I knew that had been tagged in the same post, and I was like, they wouldn't be, they're not going to be the ones that are doing this. And I go to their page, and sure enough, they'd reposted it and tagged 10 other people. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is nothing for anybody. This is just for you to look good.
Yeah. I think, we're going to not do the full hour of the show, everybody. It's just crazy times, and I'm so thankful for the show to have these good friends to talk to, because, don't forget, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. COVID-19 did not go anywhere. It's still around. You still have to be very careful. I
am trying to get tested this week, and let me tell you, that shit, they make you jump through hoops. It is not easy. Anybody who's telling you that everybody can get tested is lying to you.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a whole nother list of problems waiting for us on the other end of hopefully some resolution. Hopefully we get resolution on both of these things by, 2021. This year is pretty much just a wash. I was, I'm back to work now, kinda, but I'm still very much in new dad mode. And if I didn't have that little girl, I would have no hope for this world. And I think that's the thing, maybe if you don't have kids and you're just surrounded by all this negativity. Curtis got kids, so he knows what I'm talking about. Like, that's the future right there. That's what I look at, and I see a little blank slate, and I see a little baby who, I was thinking about it today when I was like, cooing at her and stuff. I was like, you have not done you've been alive for 4 weeks and you have not done one bad thing. Like, and I'm sure it'll be
a lot of people can't.
Yeah,
a lot of people can't.
Yeah,
you've been alive for 4 weeks and you haven't done one bad thing.
It happened, but maybe once you hit that point where you learn how to lie and stuff, but she's not there yet. She's just innocent, pure blank slate. And I just keep looking at her like, man, the things I'm going to be able to tell you about the year you were born. When I look back to 2020 in a couple years, 5-10 years, I hope the first thing I think of is, oh yeah, that was the year my daughter was born. and not the year of, mass pandemic, over 100,000 people dead because of a president who won't take care of his own people. I don't want to think about that part. Maybe the other good parters will be like, oh, that's when change actually started to happen for equality. Maybe that could be the second best thing for me. First thing I think would just be my daughter, because I'm a selfish bastard. But the future's the kids, man. And there is good stuff happening out there. We just got to hold on for a little bit longer.
God, what do you think the speeches are going to be at her graduation in 2038?
Well, I think they're going to call them, I think they're already coined the term quarantines.
Quarantines.
So when she hits 13, she'll be, I was born in the quarantine age. I'm a quarantine. Oh, man.
Somebody, I remember I was thinking about just like 2020 being a total wash. And I was trying to remember, what was the thing I saw the other day? Oh, yeah, it was that there's another outbreak of Ebola in the Congo. And somebody posted it and just said, the June fighter has entered the ring. We're like, we can't catch a fucking break. LA had an earthquake today.
Yeah.
There's a tornado watch. Watch not that long ago. And here's the thing, y'all. We're only halfway through the year. This is just the intermission.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What a fucking time to be alive.
It's going to all change here. Twitch clip, save this on your desktop and look at it every day.
Every time you say something, it's wrong.
Trump will not win in November. We will get him out of the White House. That will be a great day in 2020.
You've screwed
us. There's some people starting fires around the White House right now. So maybe before then.
You screwed us.
I might have just jinxed humanity, everybody. Only time will tell.
Oh, God.
Emmaskies, you're doing... go ahead.
No, I was going to say before it ends, just say he's going to stay in there so that way he actually...
It doesn't work like that, Curtis.
Cover your bases.
What has been said cannot be unsaid. This podcast gods came to me in a dream once and told me. Well, Emmaskies, you've been streaming consistently. You're back. You took some time off. You were doing lots of hiking. You discovered G Fuel, and now you're back in the stream game. The best part of it is you're raising funds for Oblivion all week. Where can people watch your streams, and what will you be streaming?
4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Wednesday, today, Thursday, and Friday, probably a little bit earlier on Saturday. Every dollar donated on stream this week is going directly to Oblivion Comics and Coffee and helping out them. I just started After Party today, so that'll probably finish that up tomorrow, and then who knows? Who knows what comes next? I have a backlog of games to get through, and I have no idea what I'm going to play.
One awesome thing about Oblivion Comics, they have 2 GoFundMes right now. One was that they've had going for a while, which is to help them kind of keep their employees covered and safe and everything during the pandemic times. And then they started a second one that was for the rebuild. I believe the rebuild hit its goal. It's within the first day, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But if you look at the GoFundMe and say, oh yeah, they hit it. I don't have to. They don't need anything from us. They still do. They could still use your help for the other GoFundMe, which I think they're still kind of far away from their goal. So great to see Emma doing above and beyond to help out our friends over there. Curtis, what's content looking like for you these days, man? You reading some comics?
I was on the train reading comics consistently. And then, of course, everything that happened over this last week hit. And I'm just now starting to get my bearings back and feeling better and everything. So I will be streaming on Friday. And I don't even know what date that is. But Friday and Saturday, I will be streaming Secret Warriors, volume number 6 by Jonathan Hickman, which is very awesome. And after that, I will be jumping back on some video game streams. So if you guys want to tune in and talk to me and show some love, I'd really appreciate it. Skip and Tosh, twitch.tv/Skip and Tosh.
All right. And I have nothing to promote besides 2 things. Washing your hands and just really, really trying to open your mind through this stretch of, time that we have going on right now. One thing we touched on a little bit was like the All Lives Matter thing. And I'm not even going to waste my breath on people out there who are just kind of beyond saving at this point. And we know who those people are. You see them in the comments of everything. But there are a large majority of people who I believe are well-intentioned and have their heart just a little bit in the wrong place. And the one thing is just the All Lives Matter crew. And I just want to say to those people that, yes, of course, we know that. Nobody's ever trying to say that a life is more valuable than your precious life. But Black Lives Matter right now. And that's the priority. And until the Black Lives truly matter, we're not there yet to the All Lives Matter point. And I know that you, in your heart, that's the thing. Everyone said, but I love everybody equally. I don't see the color or whatever. You have to see that color. We have to see that color to get over this hump. And then, maybe when we hit that dystopian future where we have flying cars and there's no litter in the streets and, we're singing Kumbaya, then maybe you could say that. Or maybe when we all have, sheet metal skin because we're robots or something, then color doesn't matter. But at this point, color really does matter. And we need to support, people of color who are artists, who are creators right now, and amplifying what they have to say and their struggles, and listening and learning, more importantly, so that my little girl can grow up with other people who we're going through this, so they hopefully don't have to go through as a tougher version of this. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel as far as I'm concerned. So I don't want to be the last one to say anything. Do you guys have anything else to say? We close or do you want to close the floor? Curtis, you good?
Just thanks for everybody being open-minded. Thanks for tuning in. Keep speaking up, and just keep appreciating people. Keep starting conversations, and leave your mind open to them, so that way we can get to that beautiful tomorrow that's hopefully just beyond the horizon.
Emma, do you have anything even non-related that you just want to say? Anything grinding your gears right now?
Please vote. I'm just going to leave it at that. Make sure, check your registration in. Even if you're voted, right now, check your voter registration.
One thing I'm thankful for Emma for, like when we kind of address hot topics on this podcast, I feel like we've had Emma long enough now where we've scared off most of the people who we wouldn't want listening to this show. With if people had,
my favorite message to this day was the one that said something about he stopped listening to the show because he didn't like me.
Yeah,
I was like, yes.
And for every one who says something, there's probably 100 who just do it in silence, and we're thankful for that. I'm actually thankful. It's so I don't worry about it as much as I think in the early days.
Please delete your podcast app, please.
So that's what we got for this week's episode. I'd like to stay on a little bit in the after show because we've had some really cool chatters out there, and I just want to give some love to them. So if you listen to the podcast and want to hang out with us live on twitch.tv, you can do it on twitch.tv/videogame_bang. We'll see you there. For Emmaskies, CurtisFisher, my name is Cory, saying you've just been banged.